Okay, welcome to part two. Yeah, I'm sorry this is going kind of long. I'm going as fast as I can. Napoleon was just like a pretty, important person in history, right? So there's a lot of stuff to cover with the guy. Again, you have to watch the longest video, but you get to do the coolest topic, in my opinion. So a bit of a trade off. I wasn't in my rapid fire attempt to cover everything last time able to remind you of what the continental system was, which was the fourth main vocab word you had to have. But again, the continental system was the law that Napoleon imposed on the rest of Europe since he conquered the rest of Europe other than the UK, basically prohibiting or disabling or not allowing them to trade with the British because he saw the British as his main enemy. And if no one could trade with the British, Britain would be poor, and therefore Britain would not be able to give a bunch of money to his enemies. So people would keep invading France. So it's kind of like his defensive tactic in his defense, I guess you could say, where he tried to stop these wars from happening against him. But in the meanwhile, he was trying to take over places like Spain and Russia and stuff like that. So there's that. Okay, now new content. Final days. As we left off last episode or last video, whatever you want to call it, Napoleon's army was completely wiped out in Russia. Only 1 out of 6 people returned who went into that battle or that war. So Napoleon and France is super weak. So I know that his enemies have tried to defeat him one time in the War of the First Coalition, another time in the War of the Second Coalition, again the War of the Third Coalition, again Fourth Coalition, again Fifth Coalition, which we didn't even talk about because we only have so much time. So Napoleon is now 5-0 against all of Europe, but now they smell blood. They say, Napoleon, your army is weakened. They got wiped out in Russia. Now is the time to strike. So the War of the Sixth Coalition is now formed, and it's France all alone against all the powers of Europe. Even though Napoleon's really smart in terms of a military general, due to various reasons, he loses. Very famously at the Battle of Leipzig, as you can see, I chose this picture because it shows the overwhelming odds. It's Napoleon's one French army versus 3 armies that the coalition, aka the people who don't like France, put together to defeat him. So yeah, he lost, and then also he was forced to abdicate. What abdicating is basically when you have to give up control of your throne. When he was on his way out, he tried to put his little baby in charge, but that didn't really work. And the Bourbons, the people who were in charge of France, the original kings of France before the French Revolution, were put in charge of France again. Napoleon was very sad. He was exiled to a small island in the Mediterranean. And that's all, right? Napoleon's reign is over. We covered all of the words, right? No, we actually didn't. We haven't covered the 100 days because guess what? Napoleon came back. So he just escapes his prison basically on that little island in the Mediterranean. Elba is the name of the little island. And yeah, he comes back to France. And you're probably wondering, did the authorities try to arrest him? Yeah, the authorities did try to arrest him. This is a picture of the authorities trying to arrest him. But the French people didn't really like that the old king and queen were back in France because they didn't really like that family, the Bourbon family. And everyone still kind of secretly loved Napoleon. I won't say everybody, but the military that was sent to arrest him still secretly kind of loved Napoleon. So it's a very famous scene in world history. Napoleon comes back to the shores of France. He's just walking back to Paris with only a couple bodyguards. But then an entire French army surrounds Napoleon. And one of Napoleon's generals are like, give it up, Napoleon. You're a goner. We have you surrounded. You can't do anything. Napoleon brushes his bodyguards aside, puts his hands in the air, and basically says, do what you must to me, but never forget who your true emperor is, or something to that effect. And then everyone's like, oh, we're sorry, Napoleon. We never should have tried to arrest you. So ta-da! The people who tried to arrest Napoleon were now Napoleon's army because he was that famous of a guy. You'll be kind of famous if you save your country from invasion 5 times, even if you were kind of at fault for some of those invasions. But anyways, he's still a really popular guy, especially to the military. They want to relive the glory days of France when France wasn't defeated by Europe and they were the top dogs. So they put him back in charge. This time around, though, is what's called the 100 days because, spoiler alert, Napoleon's only going to be in charge for 100 days. So there's that. But during these 100 days, he promises to be more democratic and open to compromise. He kind of understands that France is very weakened from all those 20 years of war that they just experienced, right? With the whole Russia campaign was also a big disaster. So he's like, hey guys, guys being the rest of European countries. Hey, European countries, Just let France return back to her natural borders. I'll give up Germany. I'll give up Italy. Probably keep parts of the Netherlands and stuff like that. But let's just like agree to just kind of chill and let me be in charge of my country, and I'll give you guys some of your territory back. Is that okay? But the rest of Europe wasn't really buying into this. They're like, Napoleon, we know you're trying to be a nicer guy, but you still started 20 years of warfare from our perspective. That's debatable, I guess. And you're a danger to the European continent, so we're going to invade you again. And that starts the War of the Seventh Coalition. And yep, Napoleon's like, well, I'm definitely outmatched, but what if I think that the best defense is a good offense? This is kind of his strategy his whole life, kind of. So he does try it at the Battle of Waterloo. He almost wipes out the British and the olden day Germans in one battle. But due to a couple of missteps, he was sick, other like little things, he loses this battle. And that's basically the rest of the French army. And the French army was on its last legs. They were hiring like teenagers and like sailors and police officers at this point for their big battles. So Napoleon's much weakened army was not able to pull off the same things it was back in the heyday during like the Battle of Austerlitz and stuff like that. So this battle, Waterloo, which is the most famous battle in history, ended Napoleon's 100 days back in charge. And this time he was exiled and he was sent away to St. Helena. Instead of in the middle of the Mediterranean, which is that little sea below Europe, they sent him in the middle of nowhere in the Atlantic. And they had British patrol ships patrolling to make sure he didn't escape again. So yeah, that's it for Napoleon. So yes, that is the fourth stage of the French Revolution. Now, I want you to kind of think about this. Did Napoleon act as a restorer? Did he return France back to what it was, ruled by a monarch? Or did he try to make some revolutionary ideas? You can maybe debate the Napoleonic Code treated people better. Even La Confédération du Rhin, he modernized people's way of life in that he gave modern education, he eliminated serfdom in the Holy Roman Empire. He tried to make people live a more modern way, tried to bring in the ideas of the revolution of liberty, equality, and fraternity in that respect. But also, from a certain perspective, didn't he make himself Emperor of France? Didn't he? Yeah, he wasn't responsible for all 7 wars, but I definitely blame at least 2 of them on Napoleon himself. Didn't he put his brothers and sisters in charge of different countries? That doesn't sound very egalitarian to me. And that's why I love Napoleon so much, and that's why I love talking about the fourth stage of the French Revolution, because he is such a controversial figure. Was he a hero of the revolution, or did he just restore the common order again, making kings and queens in charge of France again? Was he a bad guy in the story? Was he a good guy in the story? Obviously, it's more nuanced. Obviously, he's a little bit of both, but I like to think about, was he more this or more that? Finally, I have a nice little helpful resource for you. Your little compatriots should have covered, your third stage buddies should have covered the first coalition, so this part. But basically, this is like a nice little summary of all the different wars and stuff that I talked about. You don't got to go in depth on the wars. Don't get super hyper focused on the wars. Be hyper focused on Napoleonic Code, La Confédération du Rhin, the Continental System, the Brumaire Coup, the Battle of Austerlitz, and the 100 Days. That's what you need to teach your friends in class, right? And then also implicitly, you should kind of explain, was Napoleon a restorer of the old Ancien regime? Did he bring France back to pre-revolutionary days? Or was Napoleon more a hero of the revolution and tried to bring those revolutionary ideas out? There's no one right answer. That's opinionated. Maybe have one teammate argue one thing and have another teammate argue the other, so your classmates get a nuanced view of the second stage or the fourth stage of the French Revolution, right? I've taken up way too much of your time. I'm very happy I got to do this, though. It's a lot of fun. I will always talk about Napoleon whenever. And if your group mates have questions, you guys can come on over with your teacher's permission to E104, and I will happily talk to you in depth about Napoleon before your presentation day. So, yeah, cool. Have a good one. Bye-bye.